Mm, so good. So good. Welcome to this month's Connecting Juice, y'all. Whether you're live or joining us after the fact, I'm Ginger, your host. So glad you're here. Connecting Juice, monthly live program on great ways to think about connection with remarkable people. Imagine you're at a concert. Music is powerful. It's such a connection point. It's not about the language. It's not about the instruments or the voice or the setting or anything. It's about this deep longing to take something in that means something to you. Today, my fine guest is somebody who I've had the great good fortune of meeting, golly, a while back now. We won't, like whenever that was, from another great connection, Lawrence, your friend of mine, who's also been on the Juice. And I just learned before the program started that Phil, our fabulous guest today, has an affinity for music. In fact, Ella is being channeled right now. You know who I'm talking about if you're a music lover. And so I think of the primary topic today, Phil, and that's the woo, which you're going to explain shortly. And like, what is the woo of music to you? Let's warm up with that. What does music mean to you, Phil?
Well, I think what you just said, Ginger, you talk about it is that one foundation, it is universal in the sense that you may not know the actual lyrics of the music, but you recognize the music itself. And so for me, music allows me to maybe escape my current
Mm.
situation. It helps me to think about something else. And I know, as I said, I am a fan of Ella Fitzgerald, and she was literally a genius in my mind because she had this unique talent of sounding like an instrument, and it was just phenomenal to me. So in so many ways, music is a phenomenal instrument that allows all of us to have a connection in a way that probably during the day we just simply don't have. You can put everything to the side, and music, I think, is absolutely universal.
Mm, so much good woo in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you see Ella? I think we're both after Ella's time, but did you ever happen to see her live?
I never saw her live, but I have purchased a lot of her music, and I am from, I used to work at this organization, small organization now called Bank of America Merrill. But I had a couple of friends in the organization that were Ella Fitzgerald fans, and
Mm.
much to my surprise, we were like trading music. And so I'm just, I don't really know really what it is about her, with the exception she was just her authentic self. And I became more endeared with her when I would hear the interviews because she was just so
Mm.
nonchalant. She was very caring. She seemed to care about the person that was doing the interview. And so I just, she won me over. She was, I don't know if she was a woo or not, but that was the challenge, I think, of meeting new people. And she grabbed me even after her transitioning to a better place. So I am a huge Ella Fitzgerald fan. I don't have all of the music. I don't want to sit here and quote that I know everything about her, but I just enjoy her music immensely.
Splendid. And there is so much woo in music. Woo stands for winning others over. And
Yes.
so let's get right into that. Phil, you and I have had a number of conversations, and this woo is really fascinating to me. So would you please define what woo is first?
So I think there probably maybe a multiple definitions, but here's one of the definitions that I think is really near and dear to me. And the definition actually comes from Strength Finder slash the Gallup organization. And so it talks about WOO stands for winning others over, and that you enjoy the challenge of meeting new people and not necessarily, Ginger, to get those people to like you, but it creates a space for some common ground. It creates a
Hmm.
space to have some open dialogue. It creates a space that even if you don't know the person that you're sitting next to, or the person that you might know in the room, having this particular theme, I know for me, helps me, I guess, really, as they say, to float around the room to get to know a lot of
Mhm.
people. And it has just been such a huge connect for me, even with you. And the challenge of meeting you wasn't the challenge of you yourself, but there's this
Thank you for
big
that.
there's this big thing out there of, being frightened to get into a room and not knowing anybody. And I know a lot of people have that. And so I'm grateful that I am one of those people that I'll come up to you and I will start a conversation and just to have a conversation, just to get to know you. And yes, do I move on to other people? I just do that because I'll have to tell you that actually feeds my soul. And I think you and I said that, or I shared that with you before. Feeding my soul is really important and it is just part of who I am.
Outstanding. I love it. Love it. Yes. One thing you said too is creating common ground. That's definitely one thing I teach in human connection. We always have more common ground than we have different. We will always, as a species, DNA wise, we're so much more similar than we are different. And if we zoom out from that molecular level, like, look, you have teeth, I have teeth. If we got to start there, let's start there. One thing I love to teach, and I want your comment on this, Phil, is yesterday, for example, I was giving a keynote for a big association, and I was teaching, and I said, don't go for like-minded. We don't want that because then we have a whole room of people, whole worlds, whole countries, whole factions of populations who are thinking the same thing. What we want is like-valued people. And when I was thinking about you and me today, Phil, and you graciously coming on Connecting Juice, I'm thinking, what is the woo of the like value mindset? And that feels like it's so much more progressive, positive movement forward. We don't want like-minded. I saw you shaking your head like, no, we don't. That's what's gotten us into a massive pickle. We don't need more vinegar. We
Right,
need more honey. So
right.
could you comment on that? The like values and woo?
Sure. I think one of the directions I want to go in with that is even in diversity recruiting, one of the things that I find that's really important is when you want to recruit into an organization to make that organization diverse, you're not necessarily looking to recruit somebody that is exactly like you. And so you and I started this conversation earlier before we got to here, and we talked about, oh, I shared with you how important it is to be aware of your biases or perhaps your unconscious bias. So as I think about it from a recruiting perspective, Ginger,
Mm,
when you're recruiting individuals, you want to make sure that you're not just simply looking for somebody that is an extrovert like you or maybe an introvert like you. If you
mhm,
want to have some diversity in your life and you want
mhm.
to have some diversity in the people that you connect with, how you do that is really being able to win people over. I know it's not an easy process, and I know you might be forcing yourself into this, but if you really want to have a diverse group of people in your life, you want to have diverse thinking, you want to have diverse perspective, you want to
Mm,
have people that don't look like you want to have people that will challenge your thinking, you
mm,
want to have people that will say, I see it a little differently. I think you have to really open yourself up and be willing to listen to what someone else has to say, be willing to be a part of a conversation where you may not know absolutely nothing about it. But at the same time, if you can connect with somebody on a level that you have some kind of common ground, and that common ground might just be speaking the same language. That common ground might be saying, oh, yeah, I used to live there. And I'll tell you a real quick story. I was on another webinar, a webcast, and I made a statement about the city and the county that I was born and raised in. And out of the clear blue sky, someone said, "Was that?" And they named the county. I thought, "Oh my God, if I had never opened my mouth, if I had never felt the freedom to express myself and the
mm.
freedom to win someone over and the freedom to find some common ground, I never would have had that common ground with the individual today. We've only talked once. We had a Zoom call. It was an hour and a half. We only expected to talk for 30 minutes. It went 90 whole minutes. But just think about that, Ginger. If I had not taken the courage to say, here's where I'm from, here's how I was raised, here's what the mentality was in the county that I lived in, I never would have gotten this new connection. And, thank goodness she was open to having a conversation with me. And like I said, it went on for 90 minutes. And she finally said, do you have anything else to do? And it's like, I was supposed to be on another call 10 minutes ago. And so we had to end it. Um, but I have to tell you, Ginger, that for me was so much fun. And once again, I want to go back to the one single note that we're talking about today,
Yeah.
connecting juice. The consequence of that for me was I developed another relationship. It wasn't for this person to like me, but that to me was just the juice of just connecting with somebody. Yeah,
Mhm.
we had a great conversation, but this is somebody that I like, and I believe that this person likes me too.
Oh,
Yeah.
so much good juice in there, Phil. Wow. A couple of the things of the 50 that I wrote down. I hope you're all taking notes because Phil's the one. The best way, by the way, to reach Phil is to connect with him, personally invite him on LinkedIn. Don't send an automatic one. Don't send a blank invite. Send him, Phil, I saw you on the juice. Like, I'm so interested in what you're doing. Let's connect. Do a personal invite. So find him on LinkedIn. Larry my producer will put your LinkedIn link in the comments if you're here
Okay.
live. And we'll definitely include this on the YouTube channel if you're watching it here. What I want to dive into, first of all, the one note comes from Ella Fitzgerald. It's a
Yes.
song now, the samba, right?
Yes.
I'm going to look that up right when we're done with the show because I'm like, ooh, we're gonna samba. And what really jumped out was out of the clear blue sky. Now, really, it's not out of the clear blue sky, is it, Phil? Because you are looking at the whole sky and you realize that there are birds and clouds and satellites and things in the sky we don't know about. So just like you said, if you had never said this and this, somebody in that clear blue sky wouldn't have found their connecting point. You gave them, you seeded the clouds. You
Yes.
gave them like, okay, here's the ground I'm laying out. Is it familiar to anybody else?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I'm going to give a real quick shout out. One of my
Please.
team members is on with us today. Her name is Dawn
Yes.
Draper Jackson.
Whoop, whoop, Dawn, we love
And
you.
so one of the things about Dawn is we have been working on a volunteer team with Sherm Atlanta. Give a shout out to Sherm Atlanta.
Yes.
And she has been part of, guess what the name of our team is? It's called Member Engagement and Experience. And it's such a powerful title of our team, which goes back to winning others over. And so Don and I had not physically met. We've only done, Zoom calls, we've had team meetings, we've worked on different projects. She's really good at what she does. And one of the things that I know that she loves is career and performance management. And so
Mhm.
we finally met in person a couple of weeks, well, maybe about a couple of weeks ago at our first chapter meeting since COVID restrictions were lifted, and it was just like I would just talk to her last week, and it was we finally met in person. There was no strain in having a conversation. It was just I was Phil and that was Dawn, and we were having a great conversation.
Mm,
We sat at
mm,
the table together. We just it was just so easy for us. And I will have to tell you, when it comes to winning others over, that's the common ground that it creates. It
mm,
creates, if nothing else, it establishes a relationship that will do one or two things. Either it will continue to grow, or
mhm,
it'll just be at a place where I've just established this relationship. I know this person. Um, let's see how it goes from there. Because to me, it's part of building and maintaining a relationship. And when you can find a space to build a relationship, winning others over will help you build that relationship. And then it really becomes up to you how you maintain that relationship. So shout out to Dawn. Thank you for being a part of this today. And I appreciate you showing up. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Yes. Ditto. True or false then, Phil? Because I think that a lot of people feel pressured that when we start a connection or a contact, we have this kind of hidden thought, or pressure is not the right word, but maybe we're making the assumption to ourselves like, oh, I met this person Phil at the thing, now I have to perpetuate this relationship. True or false? We need to foster all the people we meet.
Yes,
It's
we do.
false, right? It's we don't. We get to choose.
Right.
So your woo, from what I'm hearing so far, and then we're going to get into some real tactical of the woo. The woo helps us decide. We have a great conversation. A great conversation does not a relationship make. It can start it,
Yes.
but we don't have to like release. I hereby grant you all permission slips. Like if it was a great conversation and that's what it was, then that's what it was. Keep going. If it was a great conversation, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see Dawn. I can't wait to see Phil again. Let's get something else moving. Then do that too.
Yes. So here's what I would share with you. I made this wonderful connection on LinkedIn. Her name is Laura Staley. Laura made the statement. She said, we have to really be careful not to make these straight-jacketed, unexamined expectations of each other. And it just blew me out of my chair. And I asked her, can I use that? Can I borrow that term? Straight-jacketed, unexamined expectation. So when you meet someone, don't put yourself in this straitjacket, Ginger, that you got to do all of these things
Right.
if it's not comfortable for you. But it's okay if you feel comfortable enough to do that. So what winning others over will do is it really will challenge you when you're meeting new people to make the decision in those moments. When we made the connection, we're able to take it further, or we just made the connection and it is what it is. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it being what it is, but it really is important. And I would challenge everyone or anyone that listens to this, when you're making that connection, make a decision. How are you going to manage through that? And don't put yourself in some straitjacket that you've not even examined why you're there. And then you create this expectation that you can't manage to. And I've always told the managers that used to report to me, don't create an expectation that you can't manage, because that will surely not do anything for building or maintaining a relationship. And you might find yourself constantly repairing. And that is not a good space to be in.
Oof, so good, Phil. That's the pressure relief valve. That's what we need to pull off, whether you're out of the pandemic or in the pandemic or whatever it is 10 years from now. Don't put that, like, expectation is a really powerful word.
Yes.
I prefer the word agreement. If we agree that we want to connect, then it's mutual.
Yes.
And one person can say, you know, this doesn't work for me anymore, Ginger, or I'm out, or whatever that is. So, oh, Phil, this is so good. We're only going to go for 5 hours today, folks. So tune in.
But I have to tell you, what I loved about the connection that you and I made, you did something that I think is brilliant. Technology has allowed us to do that. You sent me
Oh,
a video message, and it was like, why didn't I think of that? And my answer is, well, you don't have all the answers, Phil. But I have to tell you, I turned that around and I sent 3 video text
oh,
messages.
great.
And the response was, what? It's good to see you. I've not seen you in a long time. So it really, it does something. So if you haven't done it and you can do it, I want to encourage you to do it. It will help you to win others over.
Oh, so good. It takes 15 seconds.
That's all.
Literally, you take your phone, you put it towards you, you record, hey, Phil, thinking about you today, wondering how that thing went, what's going on, are you feeling good, what's up for your weekend? Give me a shout when you get back. See you soon. Click,
And
send.
it's done.
So
And it's
easy.
done. It's
I've had
so easy.
Good. I'm glad you're using it. I've shared that and I've taught that with a lot of people, just like the audio message that you and I exchanged before the show today. Same
Yes.
kind of thing. When we connect on a better, more sensory level, it goes deeper quicker. It's the Pilsner glass instead of the casserole.
Well, it is. And as you said, that sensory level, that is really important to be able to tap into that sensory level, because what'll happen is it'll say, oh, the light is on in the room and I can see some things differently now. With COVID, we were just kind of put into this dark room and says, don't move. You stay right here. You can't touch anybody. You can't see anybody. Wash your hands. Oh, yeah, you got to wash your hands in the dark. So I think technology gives us the
Right?
opportunity, Ginger, to like, oh, you are alive. You are a real person. And so I absolutely love it. It actually made my day. And so I want to thank you for doing that for me.
Of course, my pleasure. That's one of those tactics you get folks here on the Connecting Juice. Glad you're here. I'm Ginger, your host. Phil Williams is my fabulous guest and friend. By the way, I'm coming to Atlanta in a month and a half, but I'll share that with you afterwards. So like,
I'm looking forward to seeing
yeah.
you.
And Dawn, I know you can hear us. So here we go.
Yeah.
So let's get into 3 great aspects of using woo. And again, woo is
Winning others over.
okay. Why do we want to use woo, and give us 3 ways that we can tap into the idea of woo for everyday connection?
So one of the ways, and I do this all the time, and Ginger mentioned it up front, is when you are networking, especially on LinkedIn, it gives you the opportunity to send a message to somebody that they actually can grab a hold to, and they can experience a part of you that they don't know. And once they get to know you, then it's like, yeah, I'm glad I made that connection. So that's one thing. I would say come out of your comfort zone and allow yourself to do something different, because what happened for me when Ginger sent me that video message is like, oh, this is something different. I like this. And
Mm,
so it took me out of my comfort zone. And then the third thing, I just got to tell you this, it may not work for you the first time, it may not
mm.
the second time, but keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And you will find yourself getting into the habit. And so those are the 3 things. Networking, it's a challenge. I get it, but send a message to somebody. The second thing is get out of that comfort zone. We're so set. The behaviors that we have set in place, as they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's not true. Yes, you can.
Thank you for busting that myth.
Especially Ginger, if you give him some good treats, he or
Right. How
she
about a different treat for a different trick?
absolutely. And then the third thing I would say is just keep trying. Don't give up the first time, because I will have to tell you, there have been plenty of times when people have sent me a LinkedIn invitation. I go back to them and I say, hey, it is great that you connected with me. First, thank you. I love it when other professionals reach out to me. So I promised myself that I would be more intentional with my LinkedIn connections. So tell me why you want to connect with me. And sometimes, Ginger, there's absolutely nothing. And then that gives me the liberty and the freedom to hit ignore, and I move on.
Yes.
And what I realized through LinkedIn, and I'm guilty of this when I first started, is I got to get those 500 connections, because LinkedIn said, if I get 500 connections, I'm at this level. 500, you can't not keep up with 500 people. I'm just going to be honest with you. You
Oh
just
yeah. Ask Robin Dunbar on that one. 150 max.
Yeah. I mean,
Real relationships.
I have to tell you, with my 14 direct reports at Merrill Lynch, what I was really proud of is the fact that I had a relationship with all of them. I knew their spouses, and not all of their children, but I knew them. But I did that through winning them over just by meeting them, going to their place of business and spending time with them and their employees. So, yeah, do those 3 things. And I think you'll find that winning others over is a lot easier than you think it is. You don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be extra
Mm.
like me. I know I'm extra. I get it.
I'm so glad you are.
I understand it. And I even say to my friend Kyla Charlemagne, we talk about being extra, and she'll say, Phil, I'm extra. And I'll say, yeah, I'm extra too. So I really do get it. But yeah, and it's okay to be extra. And I'm fine with being extra. Ginger, I am the third of three boys that my mom had. And, three is an odd number. And I still remember my mother and my brother asking me, "So what's on your mind, sport? Because I know you're not thinking the way we're thinking." So yes,
Hmm.
I'm odd. I know it, and I'm pretty proud of it. Even though I don't have a collar, I'm gonna, just
Pop
say
that up.
I'm proud of that. Yes, I am. Put my chest out. And
Yes,
by the way, my T-shirt says HR is committed.
I
And
love it. I love it.
I'm committed to winning people over. I'm committed to it's just the challenge of meeting new people. And I guess at the end of the day, it's just really part of my soul. It feeds my soul to meet new people. I get a kick out of going to the local grocery store. It's called Publix Supermarkets here. And
Uh-huh.
I had an exchange a couple of weeks ago. This lady, she was a senior person, and I walked down the aisle, and she says, "Excuse me, but can you reach whatever it was she was trying to get was at the top shelf?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'd love to do that for you." And it made me feel good. And we had an exchange on the way out of the store. She
Mhm.
remembered me, and I remembered her. Now I may not ever see her again, but it was so much fun. I've done that on Amtrak trips, going on a trip by myself, not knowing anybody. I love to go to the dining car and sit with strangers. Let's have dinner and let me get to find out who you are and you can find out who I am. So that's another tactic that I use to winning people over.
Mm. The extra mindset, because really it's already in you. It's a choice to deploy your magic, to say, look, that person, whether they, first of all, we know by research, and for whatever research is worth, we will offer help more than we will ask for help. And so that lovely person you met in the grocery store, for some people, and I know you know this well, Phil, it feels like an imposition to say, oh, I can't reach that thing. I'm going to have to ask somebody around me. If we shift that mindset to the woo, like an ask is winning people over, people want to help other people, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've done that as well. I sometimes I found myself asking, can I help? Can I reach that for you? It's just because, like you said, people feel really uncomfortable sometimes asking for help. And I personally want to give people permission to ask me. And you have my permission to ask me. You have my permission to even challenge the way that I think about winning people over. I'd love to have that conversation with you, because it really is a matter of, what works best for you. I know again, I love building, maintaining
Hmm.
relationships. And once you
Hmm.
win someone over, and once they get to like you, the repair part of, if you ever have to repair the relationship, becomes that much easier because you already have an established relationship. And
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with saying, "I'm sorry." There's nothing wrong with saying, "Can I help you?" And it can, for me, let me rephrase that. For Phil, it is very easy for me to do that.
Right. And that's a muscle too, Phil. Like confidence is what I'm hearing you talk about. You talk about comfort, great. I think of it as confidence. It's a muscle. And
Yes.
just like the beach curl, we can increase that the more we do something. In fact, I'm going to get both you and I shirts that say on the back, tell me how I may help you. Let's not ask necessarily, right? Here's a tactic I learned lately. And if somebody knows the source of this, let me know. And I heard shifting when you're teaching, for example, just like you teach at Merrill Lynch and like you teach now with HR and DEI and whatever you teach people, listen, don't say, what questions do you have? Because
Right.
that kind of raises the, oh, that tells me subliminally I might not know something. And a lot of people are very dicey in that space. However, if we say, I'll take questions now, that's so much better because, like, oh, okay, great, I got a question. For some reason, there's this small mental barrier of, if I'm asked a question, then I feel compelled, like I have to answer, and I that might put me on a hot seat. That might make me feel uncomfortable. We don't like discomfort. Most of us don't. As opposed to, okay, I'll take questions now. Then it's a completely different landscape. The woo in that is it's an invite instead of an expectation.
Absolutely. And I will share with you what's interesting about saying, what questions do you have? It I compare it to my least favorite word, why. I remember as a
Mm,
little person, my mother would ask me, "Well, why did you do that?" And my immediate default was,
mm.
"I don't know," or "I didn't do it." And then she'd say, "Well, Thomas, there's only two of us living in this house. Who else did it?"
Right?
And so, what questions do you have now? It's a defensive kind of
Mm,
question. And I would say to anyone that is actively recruiting or you are in the recruiting
mm.
space, that's not a favorite question for an applicant to hear. So, what questions do you have for me now? I think, a better way of saying it, just, as you said. And so don't get in that space and don't allow yourself to be locked into that because it does put people on the defense. And like you said, Ginger, it makes people think, well, maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. Or I got to make up some question to look smart. And
Right.
you really haven't spent a whole lot of time doing your research on the organization. So, yeah, it is a very um, uncomfortable question, is I think is the way I would put it.
Right. It does make some people squirm. And while we want challenge to help us grow, when somebody else is involved, especially, you know this well, we do want to create a safe space. And for the record, safe isn't necessarily comfort. It's safe is a place of respect, a place of, look, we are both different people, or we're all different people. And know that this space is open to whatever you want to bring out. And I think that the woo could probably help us. And Phil, tell me if I'm right, or correct me. Like, if we create the safe space and that woo is very present, because woo to me feels like there's respect and listening and real true depth of intention for human connection, not just networking. Networking is that surface level. The network is the thing, the connecting is the action. So that woo feels like you're creating that common ground in a safe way where people can be themselves. Am I on track with that, Phil?
You're very much on track because below that surface of winning others over, there is building a rapport with someone. And
Mm,
when you build a rapport with someone, it makes it makes having simple conversation that much more easier. And I
mm,
think from that perspective, sometimes I think we can shy away from starting up a conversation. We can shy away from thinking, well, we don't have anything in common. But I'm a firm believer that if you don't try, you'll never know.
mm.
And if
Yes.
if you give up on it, you will never know what you were able to succeed in that conversation of connecting with someone. Because I go back to a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, when someone actually could connect with me because they recognized the county and the city that I was born and raised in. And so I could have very well, Ginger, again, using that as an example, just simply backed away. Now I have a rapport with that person. And so
Mm,
I think, again, underneath the surface, just winning someone over. And yes, it is designed to challenge you. And yes, the byproduct, and I call this the sweet spot, the byproduct is they may very well turn out to like you. But underneath all of that, you have built a rapport with someone. Just like with my teammate here, Dawn. I built a rapport with Dawn in the sense that, when we do connect, whether it's Zoom, she feels comfortable to joke and kid around with me about my little white hairs on my face.
the
So
soul patch. I
again,
love
it
that.
just creates a rapport with someone. And I think once you have a relationship with someone, and this is so super, super califragilisticexpialidocious, when you create a relationship with someone, when you have a rapport with someone, then it becomes much easier to say, Ginger, I'm really loving that haircut. I love it. Versus if I was a total stranger and you were uncomfortable, you were like, what did you mean by that? What's wrong with my hair? And so I just think it just for me, it's just comfortable. And I would love for everybody to get to that space where it's comfortable, and therein lies the safety in being able to win someone over.
Mm. Oh, I love your hair too, by the way, Phil. And I'm jamming on the soul patch. That looks good. That looks good. So much good juice today, Phil. Let's bring this on home. You shared about woo, winning others over. You shared 3 ways on how to use woo. If you didn't catch that, then go back and watch this. Give this episode to somebody who could use a boost of woo, which is true connection with people, coming from a really, I know one of your words that you use, and it always feels so spot on, Phil, when I hear you say it or I see you write it, is authenticity. Like that is true and a North Star for you. So I love when I hear that from you. Use the woo for you, for others, find those like valued, create the common ground, be extra. That's my takeaway. What's your takeaway today? Put it in the comments below. If you're sharing this, like, tell Phil, tag up with Phil on LinkedIn, let him know he is available for great workshops and training. Clearly he's got Phil, you have a magical perspective. And I highly recommend Phil for bringing people together and helping them. By the way, he's an expert in DEI too. So if that's something you want to know about, like, obviously this is just reeking of DEI, which is fantastic because, oh, that smells good. So Phil, give us one more nugget to wrap up with. You've given us so much. Tell us a brief story. Do this. Tell us a brief story of how you have implemented woo, and it's felt good, it's been good, and it positively impacted somebody else.
So, one of the things, Ginger, that was evident to me when I moved to San Francisco in the Pacific Northwest region, um, we were such a large organization that we were in 3 time zones. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Alaska and Hawaii have their own time zones.
Yes.
In 3 time zones, 8 different states, and 14 direct reports. And for me, 4 of them were in the local Bay Area, so I could get to them really fast. But the others were time zones away. They were um, a plane ride away, and sometimes it took a day and a half to get to them. So what I did to win them over was I did something called establishing a one-on-one session. And that one-on-one session was anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. And I always made sure that I gave them the space to lead the meeting because it was their time with me.
Mm.
And their time with me could be, 3 things. I always had the one thing, and the one thing that was always on my mind was customer satisfaction. And I would always go back to, let's take a look at the numbers. Let's make sure we're inclusive of the metrics that we're talking about so we know what direction we're going in. But more importantly, it was having that one-on-one time with each of those 14 managers, and they could share with me whatever it was that they wanted to share with me.
Mm.
That's how I started winning them over and not trying to depend on always physically being there. I did make it a point to get to their offices at least 2, perhaps 3 times a year, depending on the location. But again, just one on one. And so what I'm finding is one on one. I don't know, for some reason, Ginger, that seems to be an anomaly. It seems to be strange to people, and I don't know that I know why. And I've always tried to look at, well, what do I have a bias about? And I will say this, and I'm going to be honest and upfront with everybody. Yes, when it comes to electronic communication, I'm biased in the sense that I would prefer not to, but I know that it's quick, fast, and in a hurry. But if you select the right words, you can still get the authentic message across. But really, I would say that one thing that I did from a leadership perspective was having one-on-one meetings. And I encouraged my managers to do the same with their direct reports. So it's so important to, again, it's establishing that relationship. And under all of that, under the surface of all of that, it is building a rapport with people. And that is super, super, super important.
And that's good woo, y'all. So
Yeah.
glad you're here. So Phil, thank you so much for making time. I really appreciate it.
Well, it has been fun. Is our time up? I think our time is
It
up.
is, yeah, we've blown through more than 40 minutes. And so we're gonna wrap it up. Phil Williams, y'all, Philip T. Williams, you're gonna have to ask him what the T stands for. I know what it stands for. When you need more woo, when you want to talk about being a relator, being in the DEI space and really bringing your authentic self forward, highly recommend getting together with Phil. Until next time, stay in tune. If you like this, subscribe. If you want to share it, we love that because there's lots of people who would use good woo. And until then, stay well and remember life is powered by connection.
Absolutely. I love it.